Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my dear learners. I am Dr. Tanveer from Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, Jamia, Millia, Islamia. For this session, our topic is learning in school and out of school, differences and connections. After completing this lesson, you should be prepared to identify and discuss gap between learning in school and out of school and ways to bridge it. Second, you should be prepared to describe outside learning and its benefits. On one hand, popular wisdom holds that common sense outweighs school learning in many situations for getting along the world. What I mean is, there exists practical intelligence that matter in real life than school intelligence. While on the other hand, it is always echoed in the air that school education lacks something which we enjoy at out of school learning. Maybe learning lacks practical intelligence and such things. Let me take an example. Maybe you have been to local vegetable seller on roadside or a grocery store in your mohalla and purchased a long list of items in different quantities. While you were busy in mental calculations or calculation with calculator, the seemingly uneducated vegetable seller or the grocery store wala declared the final amount to you. So, there seems some discontinuity between learning in school and nature of cognitive activity outside school. A big question is that how school learning, that is learning in school, differ from other learning, that is learning out of school. So today we will explore this topic in detail. For this purpose, I will discuss some work of Lauren B. Resnick. She is an educational psychologist who has made notable contribution to the cognitive science of learning and instruction. In her famous book, Education and Learning to Think, and in her famous 1987 presidential address, she advocated the concept of out-of-school learning, which is very beneficial for children and young adults. In her address, she put forth 4 major differences between learning in school, that is typical school work, and learning out of school. Let me bring them into your attention. The first difference, what she pointed out, is individual cognition in school versus shared cognition out of school. Individual cognition in school versus shared cognition out of school. We know that the dominant form of school learning and performance is individual. Although group activities of various kind occur in school, students are ultimately judged on what they can do by themselves. A major part of the core activity of schooling is designed as individual homework, individual classwork and alike. For the most part, a student succeed or fail at a task independently of what other students do, except a few cases where grading is done on a curve. In contrast, much activity outside school is socially shared. Work, personal life and recreation take place within social system, and each person's ability to function successfully depends on what others do and how several individuals' mental and physical performance mesh with each other. Now, the second difference she pointed out about pure mentation in a school versus tool manipulation outside school. What does she mean by this? Traditionally, schooling aimed to foster unaided thought only, whereas mental work outside the school usually involve cognitive tools. Now first let me explain you what does cognitive tool stand for. Cognitive tools can be as simple as the list of frequently used calculations, dictionary, your notes, or anything which you use to assist yourself. In traditional school, the greatest premium is placed upon pure thought activity. It's a point to consider. Greatest premium is placed upon pure thought activities. What individual can do without the external support of books and notes, calculator or other complex instrument, I mean any cognitive tool. Although use of tools may sometimes be permitted during school learning, they are almost always absent during testing and examination time. During examination time, you have seen that notes are not allowed, your books are not allowed, calculators are sometimes not allowed, or anything which can aid your memory, which can aid your performance, which can aid you is not allowed. You are supposed to take test on the basis of your skills and your abilities only. No aids is allowed there. So, although use of these tools may be sometimes be permitted during school learning, but they are almost always absent during testing and examination. At least implicitly then, a school is an institution that values thought that proceed independently, without aid of physical and cognitive tool. In contrast, most mental activities outside school are engaged intimately with tools, and the resultant cognitive activity shaped by and dependent upon the kind of tools available. Some of the cognitive tools are allowed only in case of extreme unavoidability. In the days before computer, when we did large calculation in statistics by hand, we frequently refer to books of tables containing such as square and cube roots, trigonometric tables, conversion tables, log tables, and other transformations. We did not need to know how to compute these calculations, how to compute these values, but we should know only how to read the table and use the information in context of some larger task. We share the mental work with cognitive tools that others have prepared for us. Tools use is not only a way for people of limited education to participate in cognitively complex activity system, it is also a way of enhancing the capacity of highly educated people well beyond what they could do independently. For example, now I am sharing an intellectual task with computer and its software with the people involved in the development. Now the third difference is symbol manipulation in school versus contextualized reasoning outside school. We learned that extensive use of tool is one of the way that out of school thinking engage the physical world more than in school thinking. School cultivates symbolic thinking, whereas mental activity outside the school engage directly with object and situations. Outside school, actions are intimately connected with object and event. People often use the object and event directly in their reasoning without necessarily using any symbol to represent them. School learning, by contrast, is mostly symbol-based. Indeed, connections to the event and objects symbolized are often lost in school learning. Let's understand this with an example. Take an example of a milkman. Maybe the milkman who delivers a packet of milk to you or some quantity of milk at your doorstep daily. What he or she use? He use a measuring flask to measure the volume of milk or the amount of milk. And as he poured milk in his measuring flask and then he poured that milk in your pot, he used this measuring flask as a unit and he just remembered the frequency, or he just remembered how many times he has poured milk from his flask to your flask and calculate amount as per the number of times. So what we see, the standard arithmetic seems to disappear in the real world situation. Of course, there is still some number manipulations required here in this case, but not the kind that would take place or that would place this problem in the chapter of a mathematics textbook. This tendency for school knowledge to be disconnected from the real life is not limited to mathematics only. Although it is particularly easy to draw a clear example from mathematics learning, the process of a school seems to encourage the idea that the game of a school is to learn symbolic rule of various kind, and there is not supposed to be much continuity between what we know outside the school and what we learn inside the school. Why people do not forget out of school learning? Have you ever thought? You may realize that what you learn out of your school, it is very difficult to forget that experiences. This is because they are continuously engaged with objects and situations that make sense to them. People do not fall into trap of forgetting what their calculations or what their reasoning is about. Mental activities make sense in terms of their result in a specific circumstance. Actions are grounded in the logic of immediate situation. Extensive studies of practical thinking in street market, carpentry shop, construction sites and like shows the people doing virtually error-free mathematics, error-free arithmetics, often applying the principles of number composition and decomposition quite flexibly without knowing the intricates or without knowing the theories and principles behind those things. The fourth difference which she pointed out is generalized learning in school versus situation-specific competencies outside school. Major justification offered for formal instruction is usually its generality and power of transfer. Yet to be truly skillful outside school, people must develop situation-specific form of competence. Maybe you have seen a garage mechanic or electronic repairman doing their job excellently without formal training. In most of the cases, they do not know the working principles, physics and electronics behind those machines and gadgets. Still, they are able to troubleshoot and repair those machines. Studies have found that extensive training in electronics and troubleshooting theories provide very little knowledge and fewer skills directly applicable to perform electronic troubleshooting. Growing evidence of this kind point to the possibility that very little can be transported directly from school to out of school use. But do this mean that learning those physics and technologies and those the theories and concepts of electronics in school is a waste? No, not at all. Studies also document the limit of highly situated skills acquired in the workplace. Several studies have demonstrated that when familiar aspects of a task change in certain ways, for example, when the construction foreman are asked to work with a scale which is not used in his culture, or a technician is asked to work on a new model of machine, unschooled individuals have considerable difficulty and may fail entirely to work on this new situation. School people do better, although they rarely use the supposedly general algorithm taught in school, but during those formal training they develop insight and proper understanding of the problem and transferability of those learning help them in novel situation. So they are able to invent new methods, they are able to discover new methods specific to the situation at hand. Just make an observation at both the places. We can add few more differences than what Lauren B. Resnick has pointed out. Let's take your case. I mean pre-service teacher educators or pre-service teachers. A school or your institution teaches psychological theories, but people acquire psychological approach from life itself. Maybe you know psychological theories better, but you have met some people who have never attended such classes, but they utilize those psychological approach in their life. Maybe they have never read books on how to make friends, but they are very good in making friends. They don't know the psychology behind creating friendship. But you will observe that they are applying this psychology very well to create a large number of friends or to have a large number of friends. You may have seen some people are very good in selling. They can sell their idea to you without you realizing them. The other may be that school train us to solve assumed problems, while out of school participation enable us to solve situational problems, real problems at hand. Schools hardly provide meaningful learning, while out of school learning is fully dependent upon meaningful learning. That are the reason that Resnick fear that schooling is becoming increasingly isolated from the rest of what we do. So it is also likely that it will become increasingly irrelevant with time. Schools certainly should not abandon their academic mission, but their lessons should relate to the real object, event and experiences. Too many children fail in school because they cannot connect what they have learned to the world in which they live. There is growing evidence that not only many schooling contribute in a direct and obvious way to perform outside the school, but also that knowledge acquired outside school is not always used to support in school learning. So, this was what Resnick in the year 1986 suggested the difference between in-school learning and out-of-school learning, and why it was a grave concern since that time. Now it is time to mention that what have we done and what we can do to bridge this gap between in-school and out-of-school learning. Here comes the concept of outside learning and outdoor education and its integration with school learning for maximum benefit to students by bridging the gap between the learning in school and learning outside the school. Although there are differences in their definitions and hence use of these terms, which I may discuss in any other session, actually common definition of outdoor education are difficult to achieve because interpretation varies according to culture, philosophy and local conditions also. Let us talk about outdoor learning in a broader sense. Outdoor learning, for which many of you may be craving during this COVID-19 lockdown time, is a broad term that includes discovery, experimentation, learning about and connecting to the natural world and engaging in environmental and adventural activities. For example, multi-day expedition, visit to highland forest, visit to some other woodlands and coastal area for learning, youth or community activity courses, school residential trips, outdoor and adventure sports, coachings, self-training experiences are all examples of perfect outdoor learning. Outdoor learning is not about reading your book or course material outdoor. Also, it is more than adventure sports or simply taking what could happen inside or what could happen indoor to outside. It can be found in a wide range of environment and situations, including but not limited to your personal adventures, outdoor recreations, informal education, for example in non-formal settings such as in club, scouts and guides, and informal settings such as those found in schools, colleges, and universities. Outdoor learning is predicated on the idea that learner engage with context outside a brick and mortar classroom setting. The outdoor can provide easily accessible context for content of interest. For example, a student could go to a forest to learn about the dynamic relationship between various flora and fauna, or travel to a local historical site to learn about the significant historical event and see the landscape affected. Outdoor learning involves the transformation of knowledge, skills, attitude, and behavior through direct engagement with outdoor environment for the personal and social benefit of individuals, families, societies, and the planet in large. Using plays to engage students by going beyond classroom and school open up important connection for students around physical and cultural variables. There is no classroom substitute for tangible interaction with natural historical specimens, biological factors, and artifacts manipulated by man. By tapping into the various fund of knowledge inherent in sitting outside the classroom, the learning opportunities are multitudinous. Purposeful experience in outdoor can be a catalyst for powerful and memorable learning. There are several things that you know about outside learning. Education is not about acquiring knowledge, but it involves several other things that can be obtained only through outdoor learning. This type of learning helps students to frame their learning methodologies based on the things they see. It offers them a capacity to learn and contribute to live in a successful life of the society. Outside learning adds up to the benefit offered by the classroom learning, and it is a perfect complement for the same. The primary objective of outside education is that a teacher can make the student understand and difficult concepts very quickly. It gives a deeper understanding of the fundamental concept. The impact created by outside learning is entirely different from the effect of classroom teaching. The brain reacts differently when you go for education beyond the classroom. This alternate type of learning is called experiential learning. It is a method of learning that is based on your senses. The thing that you see, hear, and feel can create a more significant impact on your success. Exploring the things around the world can help in widening your practical knowledge. Beyond the class, educational method maximize the potential of learning. It gives an overall quality learning experience as it bridges the gap between classroom study and practical studies. School education, or more precisely, learning in school campuses alone would not be sufficient for the overall development of a student. There are many advantages of outside learning. Many of them have been mentioned already. Just note down some of them. For example, school performance increase when child learn outdoor. A number of studies have been documented increased school performance through outdoor education. Researchers has documented increased standardized test score, enhanced attitude about school, improved in-school behavior, improved attendance, and overall enhanced student achievement when students learn in and about nature. In addition, outdoor education effectively employ a greater range of children's intelligence. Many researchers contribute the increase in performance to increased relevance and hand-on experience of the learning outdoor. Learning outdoor is active and increases the students' physical, mental, and social health. Some studies have even shown follow-up. Physical activities increase with outdoor learning. Access to nature has been shown to decrease the symptom of ADHD. Outdoor learning and access to nature also decrease the stress level of the student and teacher both. Children greatly benefit developmentally from being outdoor. Outdoor education and play support emotional, behavioral, and intellectual development. Studies have shown that students who learn outdoor develops a sense of self, independence, confidence, creativity, decision making and problem solving skills, empathy toward others, motor skills and self-discipline and initiatives. Often the outdoor provide a change of pace from the classroom, which students and teachers enjoy. Studies have shown increased student enthusiasm for learning outdoor. Outdoor experience help students increase their understanding of their natural and human communities, which lead to a sense of place. Through connection to place, students develop a stronger environmental attitude and civic behaviors. Outdoor learning experiences are a foundation of raising the next generation of active citizens who take care of their natural and human communities. Outdoor learning connects families and community to the school. Outdoor classroom provide natural entry point for families and communities members to get involved with student learning. The relationship developed through outdoor learning lead to the greater parent and community involvement in and support for the school. Now, it is the time to summarize the today's learning. In today's session, we learn about the 4 general classes of discontinuity between learning in school and nature of the cognitive activity outside school given by the famous educational psychologist Lauren B. Resnick. What she pointed out is, put briefly, that schooling focuses on individual's performance, whereas out-of-school mental activity or mental work is often socially shared. Schooling aims to foster unaided thought, whereas mental work outside school usually involve cognitive tools. School cultivates symbolic thinking, whereas mental activity outside school engage directly with objects and situations. Finally, schooling aims to teach general skills and knowledge, whereas situation-specific competencies dominate the outside world. This is what Resnick in the year 1986 suggested, the difference between in-school learning and out-of-school learning, and why the gap was a grave concern since that time. We discussed that school need to bridge this gap, and one of the many ways to do it by bringing out-of-school learning into the classroom and integrating the classroom learning with out-of-school education. There are various benefits that outside learning can offer to the students. One of the main benefits of outdoor education is that you get a practical understanding of the various subjects. It promotes your life skills as you face various types of challenges during your outside learning. Education beyond classroom can make students achieve in their life as it builds their personal and social skills. Outside learning makes you independent in your learning process. Outside learning creates interest in the various subjects of academics, and this keeps the student engaged in their studies. It promotes creativity and you do things differently than others. It is an informal learning process and it more like a play which make learning enjoyable and fun. This type of education changes your attitude toward life, and this helps to become a successful citizen. The students are ready to accept the challenges and take up risks if they are exposed with outside learning. The overall confidence of the student get improved with practical knowledge gained from outside learning. You cannot substitute classroom learning with outside learning. It is a fact. But both should go together that you can achieve your success. Thanks for being the part of this session. Thank you.